Welcome to Ladies Who List. If you've ever wondered what really goes on behind the scenes of real estate, beyond the glitz and glamour of selling sunset and the drama of million-dollar listing, you're in the right place. We're diving deep into the questions you've always had, educating you on how to be a more innovative and successful buyer and seller, and giving you the truth behind buying and selling and everything in between. No fluff, no filters, just straight talk. And today, our episode is called Pulling the Curtain Back on Zillow. Again, we have Abby Kelly joining us. Thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me. I love it. This is an interesting topic.
All right, before we get started, we always, as you know, do a would you rather question, my favorite part. Would you rather always have an itch you can't reach, or a song stuck in your head forever? We'll answer that at the end. So one of the reasons we want to talk about this subject is just because there is so much that buyers and sellers don't know about Zillow. And when we looked, 70% of buyers have used Zillow at some point in their buying journey. That's a crazy number.
Yeah, buyers and even sellers are on there. It's ubiquitous now with shopping for homes, I guess and I think that's an important distinction. Shopping. It feels fun.
Yes, it feels
it's
fun
like,
and casual.
who doesn't love to shop?
I was trying to think of why. I mean, there's so many other sites. There's Realtor.com, Homes.com, Redfin, Compass.com. Like, there's so many other search engines. Why Zillow? I'd say it's user-friendly.
Some think it's more user-friendly than others. I just think it captured and rode the wave of the cultural zeitgeist, and next thing you know, it's like Google.
Yeah.
For search.
Right.
Are you going to Google
like
that?
Kleenex.
Yeah,
Kleenex, it
Kleenex,
just kind
Q-tips.
of became the household name for searching for homes.
Yeah, for better or worse, that's just the trend, and it's easy because now you're like, you can refer to it as this is where I Zillowed it.
I will say when someone sends me an address and I just put it into Google really quick, the first thing that comes up is Zillow. So their SEO game is strong. That is why 70% of buyers use Zillow.
Well, and businesses don't get to that sort of position without having played their game well.
You just said the word business, and I think that is the one idea that I want everyone to walk away today with, is that unlike the MLS, which is a neutral database of information.
It is a listing service, literally MLS, listing
Correct.
service.
The difference is that Zillow is a business, and that is why some things that you'll learn today are a little bit deceiving that buyers and sellers should know.
Absolutely. It's important to think, okay, what is Zillow and how does it make money?
Yes.
That's not
Correct.
always on the forefront because you feel like you're just going to this free site and I'm searching and
someone's got to pay the bills.
Someone's paying the bills.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's always a cost for something. And unfortunately, the cost in this situation is often the consumer buyer agency experience.
So what is Zillow and how do they make their money? Most would think advertising. But do you see ads on Zillow? Usually not. What Zillow actually is a lead generation platform.
Absolutely.
And Zillow sells leads, buyer leads, to agents that pay for those leads.
Their bread and butter.
Yeah, that is their bread and butter. That is how they make money.
And when we're talking about paying for leads, we all know the click to view this home. Do you want to go see this home? You think that you're probably going to go to the listing agent, the most familiar with the property, person most familiar with the property. But behind the scenes, Zillow is funneling your lead information out to any agent that is buying leads on their platform. And they're paying from not just hundreds of dollars, but to
hundreds of thousands of dollars, some agents. There are mega teams out there that live only by Zillow leads. Yeah.
It's big business.
It is
your
big business.
Information, imagine that, is big business.
Yeah. And we are not Zillow agents. I've dabbled with it for a couple months many years ago, but it just was not my jam. But you did work on a team that did a lot of Zillow leads. So tell us a little bit, just what does that look like on like a, day to day?
Speed pickup is the name of the game. And because when proverbial buyer clicks on that button, agents' phones instantly ring, and you've got to compete to pick up that phone call as fast as possible and then convert that lead, that phone call into an appointment. That is where the opportunity comes in. You get graded on how quickly you answer the phone, your conversion rates. Are you able to close a deal from it? But you have to be able to sell yourself when you're a cold stranger to these people. It is definitely not for the faint of heart.
Like you said, I have actually a story about this. It's changed a little bit now, but when you would click on that button, you thought you were meeting the listing agent. So when I was living in California, that exact same thing happened to me. I was working with an agent. This is, of course, before I got my real estate license. She was out of town and something popped up on Zillow. I clicked on that button. I was so excited to see this property. And I outside met the agent. I thought it was the listing agent. She was very lovely. She was talking to me. And then I was like, okay, let's go in. And she's like, oh, I'm waiting for the agent to open the door. And I thought, you were the agent. So I was confused.
Yeah.
Another agent came. I'm so confused during this whole showing because there's two agents there. And I'm like, who is this person?
Who's who?
Is this their cousin? Is it their friend? Like, I'm very confused. Turns out that agent was there representing me, which I didn't ask for that. I didn't know that. I had representation. She was just out of town.
Right.
So, post NAR settlement, that's changed a little bit. Now they do have a conversation about, that they're there to represent you for this property. It is a little misleading.
It is, and always should have been transparent. And that's how I like to operate. And I've always run my business, that just because I'm here showing you this property as a Zillow agent at the time doesn't mean that you want to work with me. I want to earn your business.
Correct.
And
we only want to work with people that want to work with us.
Absolutely.
Yes.
That's how we grow our small businesses. But that's not everyone that's a Zillow agent. And you sign an agreement that if they show you that house, they are going to be the ones that represent you. And that just doesn't feel like consumer choice. That feels like coercion, that just because I want to see something, I have to work with this buyer's agent. So it's definitely a little confusing.
That's why I think our team has decided that is not the right business choice for us. Let's move in to what buyers should really know. This is so important because if you're one of the 70% of buyers that are scrolling Zillow before you go to bed, you need to know these things. So the first thing, the most important thing, is this illusion of access, that all of these listings are on Zillow. And that is
every listing is on Zillow.
That's what most buyers think. But let's talk about that, because that is not the case.
Absolutely not. There are multiple different avenues that a seller can take to go to market. Private listings, for example, we have Compass private exclusives. There's word of mouth. There's for sale by owners. There's a lot of different ways that they can do it. But the most interesting thing that's kind of come out of this local latest news cycle is that Zillow is actually now banning listings also.
So the first thing is that there are listings posted on networks that Zillow does not syndicate from. Every market is different. In Chicago, we have the private listing network. Those listings, not on Zillow. We have, in our brokerage, we have Compass coming soon, Compass private exclusive. Those are not on Zillow. So let me give you an example. A couple years ago, I had set my buyer up on a Compass search, and he called me very upset that he just saw a home close that was his dream home that he did not see. And he thought, he asked why he didn't see that home. I looked at his Compass search to make sure all the settings were set up, And they were. And I did find that home did hit
In
their
fact,
Compass
both of
search.
them.
And so I asked, I said, are you using Compass or are you using a different platform? He was using Zillow. That was on the private listing network. And therefore, he lost his dream home. He apologized to me because it wasn't my fault. It was the fact that he was only using Zillow. And from that moment on, he only used Compass.
Compass.
Yeah.
And that's a big misconception that you're seeing everything. But I think we've all had buyers that have been like, well, why is this house, did it go straight from listed to contingent? And I never even got to see it. But that's when they're first kind of coming on and first starting to learn that there are a lot of different ways that a property can go to market.
Yes. So we know that not all the listings are there because a lot of them start as private listings, which leads us into something new, which is the big controversy, which is Zillow is now banning active listings
Yes.
that have been on the private listing network for 24 hours or more.
The Zillow platform is trying to enforce rules that benefit them having the listing. And if you don't play by those rules,
You're banned.
Zillow will say, well, then you don't get to be on Zillow, as that's the end all be all.
So isn't that crazy that a listing that is on the private listing network, which a lot of them are,
Yeah.
will not be on Zillow when it's active. It gets banned, which means now you're not only not seeing private listings, but you're also not seeing all the active listings.
Absolutely. It's crazy because I think we all are wanted to think that it was a great resource, but then you're starting to see the peek behind the curtain.
Yes, exactly. And we'll get into that a little bit later about this controversy, but let's go on to the accuracy of Zillow because let's just start with those damn Zestimates.
Zestimates.
We all know they are computer generated, robots essentially analyzing the value of your home. They haven't seen your home. They don't know how it shows. They don't know that there's a gas station next door.
Yeah,
or
the view out your windows,
Correct.
your neighbors' properties.
So that in of itself, I think, just puts buyers in the wrong mindset. And this I thought was very ironic and funny when it came out. This was years ago. The CEO of Zillow sold his home for 40, not 40, 40% less than what the Zestimate was.
Right.
That is, 40%,
That's bananas.
It's, yep. You think they would have gotten rid of it after that, but they didn't.
No.
But also, we know a lot of the numerics on there are inaccurate.
The numbers start to matter. When you come to your largest personal investment, you really are crunching the numbers. You're like, okay, is this 5,000 in taxes a year or 50,000 in taxes a year? They don't always have the taxes right. They don't always have the square footage right if you're trying to calculate price per square footage. They
almost never have the square footage right.
Never have the square footage right. Sometimes they don't even have the number of bedrooms and baths right. Or they'll show photos. You're thinking accuracy. Wait, I saw you have a story. Didn't you just have this?
This is so ironic because Abby and I were going over this yesterday. And yesterday morning, I had a call with one of my sellers, and there's a comp in their building that's active. And we were comparing us to that. We were comparing, and they said, I don't think the photos on this listing are accurate. I don't think these are the photos of the unit because the listing says it's 2 baths, but it shows 3 different bathrooms. So we popped it up on the MLS and we were scrolling through the photos. There was only 2 bathrooms. So I said, because I knew, I was like, what platform did you see this? Are you looking at this listing on? I was like, is it Zillow? Yes, it was.
Ugh.
And I'm like, sorry, it's inaccurate. The photos are not correct.
No. And that's a lot to be relying on when you are thinking about an investment of this nature.
Just to sum it up, the 2 things buyers really need to know. If they're casually looking, it's probably fine. But if you're seriously looking, Number one, Zillow does not have all the listings. And number two, the information is often or sometimes inaccurate. Let's move on to sellers. Sellers don't use Zillow as much unless, of course, they're buying. And they maybe will check their listing out, for a hot second once it goes live. But other than that, they don't really look at the listing on Zillow. So there are a few things I think we need to discuss when it comes to sellers. We did pull a listing up on Zillow. And we're going to show this. Let's dive into this listing because it's interesting.
It's very interesting. So, particularly if you break it down into very specific things. First, let's look at the intro image that you see. I like to pick the order of my photos. I don't know about you, but this second photo I see looks like of a weird brick wall, like
Oh, yeah.
really kind of
That
unattractive.
is not the second photo that I want to see.
that I want to see. The listing agent has no control anymore as soon as it goes to Zillow. They order the photos the way they want. So as a seller, I'm kind of disappointed in being like, gosh, that's not the first photo I want people to see. Then we've got things like we've got the price, there's an estimated monthly payment. Hopefully they've got the bedrooms and baths right. You never know. It could be 2.5 baths because there's a little line underneath the bath. It may be 3 or it may be 2.5 baths. They round up.
And let's just take note of right under the price. Already they're selling you something. Get pre-qualified through their loans,
Yes.
right? So that's just shows again, this is a business. This is not necessarily a data hub, but this is a business.
So what we have here, as you look further into it, is that it starts to tell you more about the Z estimate. So it is listed at $1,250,000. The Z estimate is almost there, a little bit shy by $600. That already has an idea in buyers' heads, like, oh, well, I could get it at ask price. I think things are going over list these days, but I could get this at this price.
All right, so we're scrolling down. We've got the listing history. We haven't checked if that's accurate, but sometimes it's not. But look at this one, offer insights. So it tells the buyer what a strong, competitive, moderate, or weak offer. And this particular listing, the list price is 1.25, and they are saying that an offer, this is so interesting, an offer of 1.2, you have a 90% chance of winning. Now, this listing has closed since we screenshotted this. Guess what this closed for? Not 1.2, 1.31. So $110,000 over what they're saying it has a 90% chance of winning. So if you're a buyer and you followed this,
You're going to be sorely disappointed.
very disappointed.
You may stand ground that ends up, if this was your dream home and you did have the means to do it, that disappointment of going through the emotional roller coaster of submitting an offer and trying to win, but Zillow, who's never been in this house, who's never seen the competition, doesn't understand what it's talking about and is misguiding you.
Yeah. So for a seller, you do not want that there, right?
No, because all of a sudden, from the sell perspective, you're like, why am I getting these lowball offers when all of a sudden people who aren't just listening to the Zillow data probably have great top agents working for them who understand how to interpret the market and the data and are saying, if you want this house, this is how competitive it's really going to be, giving you a real world perspective.
Correct. Real being the key word.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're scrolling down. I do not agree with their walk score, but that's fine. I mean, it's. I think it's like 100 out of 100.
100, yes.
But let's look at that nearby schools. So, they use this greatschools.org rating, which buyers have, for whatever reason, adopted as the holy grail for schools. I have buyers all the time, I'm sure you do too, that say, I don't want to look at that house. It's the school's a 6 out of 10. The school's a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, greatschools.org is a reputable source, but there are others now, and there's so much of a reputation in greatschools.org, but it is based on limited amounts of data and is not accurate as to what people are experiencing in the
That's
neighborhoods.
right. And, I actually looked into this, not for this podcast, but when I was moving into my school district, everyone, my clients, I'm in the industry, so we hear things. Everyone loved this school. But on greatschools.org, it was a 6 out of 10. So
You almost didn't do it,
I
right?
almost didn't move. So I dug in real deep, as I do for everything, and I started making phone calls to understand, why is it a 6 out of 10? And what I found out was the criteria that greatschools.org uses is, can I swear on this? BS.
Yes.
Total BS. So in that particular case, the reason why that school got a 6 out of 10 mostly was because of attendance. And I'm like, I don't care if other people have low attendance. I care if my kids have attendance.
Right.
But I don't care about, I mean, yes, it matters, but is it enough to give it a D minus, a
And
6
for
out of 10?
my entire life to be revolve around what the
score?
score is?
And funny enough, the very next year it jumped from a 6 to a 9.
Right.
I also learned that it's based off reviews. And we know you
Squeaky
only
wheel.
Yeah, you only make a review usually if you're very angry. And a lot of those reviews are coming from students, 4th graders, 5th graders, 6th graders, that had a bad day in school one day.
Yeah.
So it really isn't the most reliable resource for judging if it's a good school.
Yeah. It's not, unfortunately. And I think that's what Zillow touts. And it's going to influence buyers as a seller. It's going to influence buyers. And you have no control over what Zillow is putting on your listings page, which is actually the perfect segue, because next thing that Zillow does is list nearby homes. And these homes may or may not be comparable. I mean, my goodness, there's one here that's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath for $504,000, and then there's another one here for $1,250,000. It gets buyers to click off of your listing.
It is trying to get you to stay on the site, but click off of this home. Can we just actually take a look at these 2 listings?
I know.
I mean,
With
what
the 2 pictures.
photos are those?
I don't know.
I mean, is that an air conditioner?
I think so.
Amazing.
And a shovel.
I'm sure
maybe.
that seller is thrilled to have that
Oh my
photo.
God, you know what? I think it's the alley even. Oh God.
Okay, let's scroll
It's
down just a little bit further. Local experts. So we have blurred these agents out. I'm pretty sure, given I don't know any of these agents, they're probably not local experts.
They're top paid Zillow Premier agents.
They pay.
They pay.
But they are not necessarily experts. Scrolling down just a little bit further, all the way at the bottom, you have this climate risk data. It headlines flood zones,
here it is. I
climate
got it.
predictions, wildfire risk. I mean, we don't have any of that in Chicago, so this listing doesn't have that. But can you imagine if you live in, an area that might be considered a flood zone, having that on your listing?
It's already putting the fear of insurance companies into people's hearts.
Exactly. Those things are just important for sellers to know, and buyers. I think those are things, I don't know how many people scroll that far, but if you do, it's, something that might put the wrong idea in your head. Let's just quickly circle back to this controversy that we talked about before. Why is Zillow banning listings that were on the private network?
This simplifies it, but monopoly is a very simple
I
way to put it.
I agree. They just so ironically take this stance that they don't agree with private listings. Maybe, side note, because they don't have the ability to access them, they are taking the stance that a pocket listing or private listing is not in the seller's best interest because exposure will get them a higher price. That is the stance that they're taking.
One company takes control over what listings show, which agents appear, who gets visibility, how information is shared. That isn't transparency for consumers. That's coercion into seeing what they want you to see. And that's scary.
This is a controversy amongst a lot of brokerages, but Compass has probably taken the strongest stance. I don't just agree with this because we're Compass agents, but I do truly believe that sellers should have the right to market their property how they please.
However they please.
And sure, in many cases, going straight to the market might get you the highest price. And in other cases, going private might get you a higher price. Or a seller may choose to do a private listing for a host of reasons that make sense for them and their family. Because it's not all about price for every seller.
It isn't. And homes aren't a commodity. This isn't just supply and demand. It has a lot more to do with the emotional experience of it, in addition to all the other factors that go into it, from the market, the neighborhood, the streets, the views, everything you're saying is that choice and that transparency needs to be right for the seller. And that's not a formulaic one size fits Zillow.
There you have it. We have discussed what you really should know about Zillow before using it as your primary platform. Not to say that you can't still scroll Zillow listings before you go to bed, but just be educated about it. Understand what you're looking at.
Yeah, it's great. Get inspired, see what's out there.
Look at pretty pictures.
Some
maybe
pretty
not the ones of the
pictures.
alley.
Yeah. But don't rely on it.
Correct.
That's why you have a real estate advisor, and that's where you need to go when it's the right time for you to make a move.
Absolutely. All right, before we end, now we got to answer our would you rather question. Let me find it again.
Gosh.
Would you rather have an itch you can't reach or a song stuck in your head forever? This one's an easy one for me.
Absolutely itch.
You would rather have an itch you can't reach?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because there's back scratchers.
So you're going to carry a back scratcher all day?
Maybe a pen.
That is the worst. It's like torture for me when I can't reach an itch.
It is torture, but nothing is more torture. Constantly having the same. What if it's like Jingle Bells?
But
Stuck in
music
your head
is happy. That means that it's a catchy tune.
Well, again, I'd like to insert a question. Can you still hear other songs in your head, or is it always just the one song?
The same song.
Oh God, no. Itch.
Okay. I'm disagreeing with you on this. I'm taking the song. Even if it's Jingle Bells.
Can I pick the song? Okay, Jingle Bells.
All right, and that's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to Ladies Who List. We hope you're walking away with some real insight and a little more confidence for your next real estate move. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this podcast with anyone who's curious about the world of real estate. If you have any questions or topics you want us to cover, we'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep it real, keep it smart, and we'll catch you on the next episode.